The price of Bitcoin down about 70% from its high in November. Let's talk about regulation in the crypto market and the potential impact for investors. Join us now, Brian Brooks, Bitfury CEO, former acting controller of the currency. Brian, thanks for joining us this morning. Are you a proponent of regulation will eventually be just what we need to remove the uncertainty, or just looking at I saw a piece on Gary Gensler today, and he's serious. He's serious about a lot of things in terms of the SEC. Very activist, and I don't know whether the regulation is necessarily going to be the panacea for crypto.
Well, Joe, first of all, let's define some terms, okay? Regulation does not mean suing people. And the approach the SEC's had for the last couple of years has been to not tell anyone what the rules are in advance, but to sue people after they've launched a project, started a company, listed a token, and then cause people to infer what the rules were later. That's not a good thing. And so at some point, Congress and the regulators need to get serious about telling people, what is the speed limit on the crypto highway and what projects are appropriate and good. Once we set frameworks and rules for those things, you'll see a flourishing. But until then, you're going to see a lot of people very nervous about investing in the space.
Well, does that have anything to do with that chart you're looking at right now, or is that just a chart you overlay the NASDAQ with?
No, I think there are a bunch of things going on here. This is the problem with doing technical market analysis, right? Every chart is like tea leaves you can read something into. But I think with Bitcoin and crypto broadly, there are two things going on right now. One is we've talked before about the idea that Bitcoin is an inflation hedge. And the more the market expects tough policy from the Fed, the less Bitcoin is necessary as an inflation hedge. I've debated this on this program a number of times before. But right now, people seem to think the Fed is going to keep an aggressive posture for longer because of Jay Powell's recent speech, and that would tend to harm Bitcoin. But the other thing going on is, you think about what happened a couple of weeks ago when Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, and some other prominent Democratic senators sent a letter to my old agency asking them to pull back all of the regulation that I had imposed when I was in office that was an attempt to provide both safety and clarity. Their view seems to be, no, let's not let Bitcoin anywhere close to the regulated sphere of the economy, meaning banks and broker-dealers. That tends to suggest that this is going to remain a niche asset that will be risky and non-standard. That isn't what markets like. If the big asset managers of the world are going to touch crypto, there has to be a rule set. Why these senators don't want the activity to be happening within the regulatory perimeter, that's a good question. But that tends to be negative for price.
I'm not convinced that people are using Bitcoin yet, or even what happened to gold. I thought Bitcoin took over for gold for the inflation hedge, but okay, yeah, the Fed's talking tough, but Congress is still allocating trillions of dollars that we don't have for things that how many new laws have you seen in the last 6 months? And Brian, if it was really an inflation hedge, only 21 million, whatever you want to say about Bitcoin should be above 19,000. It's still just a correlated asset with risk assets.
Yeah, look, Joe, I would take the other side of that. We've talked before about the fact that the all-time high of Bitcoin happened about 4 days before the current Fed tightening policy took effect. And it's not about what inflation is. It's about what the market predicts inflation will be in the future. So if you believe the Fed is committed to a long-term tightening course, if you think we're going to see 75 basis points rising at the next meeting instead of 50, that kind of thing, that's bad for people who are short-term traders looking to think of this as their hedge. I realize that's complicated for a lot of people to understand because inflation is rampant. But the expectation for inflation in the future is downward because the Fed has finally gotten the message. That's what's hurting Bitcoin. In the same way that stock, it doesn't matter how well the company did this quarter. It matters what your forecast is of the next several quarters. And that tends to be good or bad for the price.